Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Overstock Dixie. You can go like and follow their Instagram. There's new items that pop up on there every day, multiple times a day. Anything from furniture to tools, electronics, pretty much anything you're looking for. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick podcast. We are in the vault today. We have a guest today that I've known for a very long time, over half my life. This is Trevor Davenport.
Awesome.
How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good.
Good.
Can't complain.
I'm excited. You were one of the first people that reached out to me when we started this, and you were like, "Hey, man, like what you're doing. Keep doing it."
Yeah. No, I've listened to everything. I spend a lot of time to where I'm driving around or alone. So podcasts are a big thing, and I do enjoy them. I can relate to a lot of the topics and people that you've brought on. Obviously, a lot of Pineview guys.
Yeah.
And people that we went to school with.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to hear some of those stories and some of those things that you had no idea was even going on, and that's the point, right? Like, we all have struggles, we all have things, and let's try and make the best out of them and move forward. So I've been following you on social media with some of your posts and some of the outfitters that you're working with, and it's more of a jealousy thing than anything, because every time I see it, I'm like, man, that's so cool, I want to go do that. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and we'll get into it later, but just touch on the hunting, the outfitters.
Yeah, no worries. So currently I work for two main outfitters, Shadow Valley Outfitters. They are out of Arizona. They're actually out of Prescott. That's like their main, where most of the guides live. But me and another kid named Hunter Larson here from St. George are their only, actually we have a couple people that have got on, but we're the only ones from Utah. So we specialize on the Arizona Strip. That's just south of St. George, anything south of St. George between there and the Grand Canyon. So we're way closer than they are. So that's one thing that we focus on. I also work on the east side of Nevada for Mogollon Rim Outfitters. I work for a guy named Greg Krogh. He's also out of Arizona, but I only work for him in the Nevada outfit.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, let's a little backstory on you. And then we'll just, I'm sure we'll get down some rabbit holes. We'll get some stories, and we'll get done with all that. So yeah, give us a little backstory, and then we'll kind of knock it out.
Yeah, grew up in St. George out of Bloomington Hills. I'm one of 6 kids, just normal Mormon family. Lived in the same house my whole life. Ended up going to Pineview, going through the school. I actually got held back in 6th grade. And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm probably a year older than everybody that we went to school with. I passed it the second time. It was a little bit easier. I knew some of the answers, but went through there. I actually got expelled our senior year and didn't even end up graduating.
Really?
Yeah. So the little basketball incident over at Dixie High School got me kicked out. So
throw tennis balls?
Is that what it was? Yeah.
I remember that.
I got expelled, ended up having to go over to Mill Creek for a little bit, but I had my mission call. So I was planning on graduating, but I went on my mission and came back and haven't needed to graduate yet. So maybe 2022 will be the year I graduate, but I should have graduated in 2007.
Yeah, class of 2022.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. Hopefully we have some cool classmates.
Yeah. Okay, so after the mission, so I was in the singles ward with your wife for a little bit.
Okay.
So I've met her. I know her. Well, I knew her back then, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we've been in the same group since, but tell us a little bit about that. How'd you meet her? How'd you guys get together?
Well,
unless I'm skipping ahead too far.
Well, backing up just a little bit.
Yeah.
So when I got off my mission, I actually got married. It was just, I don't know if it was just butterflies or met the wrong girl, but it just didn't work out. We were always arguing, always fighting. Long story short, not to get into too much stuff, we ended up getting in a divorce.
Okay.
At this time, I was working for a hunting magazine. It was like a dream job of mine. It's called Muley Crazy Magazine. Yeah. So they're out of Kanab. It's kind of fake it till you make it. They asked me one time, ran into them actually on the Arizona Strip helping out on a deer hunt. And they're like, "Do you know anything about computers?" Yeah, I knew a couple things. I had Facebook and that, but they were talking more of like graphic design and that, and I didn't. So I just literally faked it until I made it and learned Photoshop, learned some video editing with Final Cut Pro and iMovie and all of that, and worked with them for a few years, but making the drive from St. George out to Kanab every single day. I did that for a year.
Dang.
It started getting old. It was an hour and a half one way. Again, ended up going through a divorce. That living out there in Fredonia, there's not a lot of single chicks. And if they're single, it's for a reason. So I ended up working for a company. I transferred from Muley Crazy. They had to let me go. They were maybe financially not doing the best. So they ended up letting me go, and I ended up working for Lincare Home Oxygen.
Okay.
So I had to get my CDL and start my hazmat so I could deliver like their liquid oxygen and different things. And at the time, I was trying my hardest to get back to St. George. Literally, Fredonia doesn't have anything for me out there. And at that time, I realized, well, I'm going to be moving to St. George. Don't really know anybody. I've been gone for a couple years. Obviously, everyone we went to high school with and everyone that I knew, I did know. But I was on Facebook one day, and there was a girl that I know, and she posted a picture with this chick, and I was like, man, that chick looks so familiar, but I don't know who she is. So I automatically started Facebook stalking her. I get on.
Of course.
I was like, her name's Whitney. It's Warhurst. I was like, this sounds familiar, but I have no idea who this girl is. But her account was private. So I was like, crap. Oh, well, whatever. I'm just going to send a friend request. So I sent a request, and at the same time as I sent a request, I get the notification that she accepted it, like right away. And so me being dumb and who I am, I just respond back. I'm like, you must have been waiting for me to send a friend request. She's like, no, I was on lunch break. Just small talk started happening. Was funny at the time, all I had was a motorcycle for transportation. So I lived out in Fredonia, I had a motorcycle, and she saw that I had a dog. So we became friends, obviously, on Facebook. She saw that I had this little puppy. We started talking back and forth throughout the day while I should have probably been working. And she's like, hey, we should hang out sometime. Well, I ended up putting my dog in my backpack and driving my motorcycle to come meet her and a couple friends. And I knew that, like, bribing her with this dog, she'd probably think I was pretty cool. And yeah, hit it off. Haven't spent really many days apart since then.
Dogs, man. It's the key to dating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If anyone's out there trying to find a girl, dogs is step one.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So
maybe Facebook stalking and then a dog.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
And my wife's still to this day a dog person. We have plenty of dogs, but yeah, that's how we met. We had a couple mutual friends. Nothing too crazy. Just started dating for a little while, then we ended up getting married after probably about a year and a half of dating.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. So you'd mentioned before we started that you had just some mental challenges, maybe a little depression. I don't know what word you want to put to it, and I'll let you put the word to it. Let's talk a little bit about that, because in my eyes, what you're doing now is like a dream thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so talk a little bit about that. Then I want to transition into all the stuff, all the cool things you're doing now.
Yeah, no. Well, I think in my life, I've had a couple different challenges. Honestly, getting held back in 6th grade, that's kind of like the time where you're cool or you're not cool. Like you start getting the cliques. And so here I was actually in the last class of the Woodward 6th grade center. So it was kind of maybe a good transition at that time, because all the people that I was in 6th grade with were going into the next class. And like, if I would have got held back and still been at Woodward, it probably would have worked out a little bit better, but it was the same time they opened up Desert Hills Intermediate School. And I don't know if you went to Desert Hills or not, but I think that's kind of about the time that we met it was in there. So, it's kind of hard being focused. I'm not a very focused person. I was always maybe a class clown, or at least I thought I was. I was trying, like, always joking around, but then I get like set back, and here I am with all my peers that are going into 7th grade, and there I am in 6th grade, don't know anybody, feel dumb every time I'm walking down the hall and I see my homies. They're like, you're in 6th grade again? Like, come on, let's get it right. And it really hit me.
Sure.
At that time, I don't know if I believed in depression. I thought, you guys are just BSing it, just go have fun. Like, it's not a real thing. But I think that's probably where it all started. It was like my own, the school told my parents, do not hold him back. It won't, he's just super immature. And I can tell you to this day, I'm still super immature. Like, I don't plan on growing up anytime soon. So, but I think it was more of like I had ADD or ADHD, but my parents were thinking that I was lazy. And I'm not saying I wasn't lazy at all. I've to this day, I've never done 1 minute of homework. I didn't believe in homework. I thought it was stupid. Like,
I think it's stupid too.
I'm at school. I don't like it already. Why do I want to go home and continue working on math problems when I could go build dirt bike jumps or go shoot some rabbits, do anything but schoolwork? And so, I went through that a little bit. And I also, my parents are still here in Southern Utah. We do not have a very good relationship at all. I honestly haven't talked to my parents in years. I'm not here to talk crap on them by all means, but I grew up in a very abusive household. One where I was actually scared of my own dad. I've been in many situations where physical harm, like I remember one time in particular, I don't know if it was 6th grade, it might've been like 5th grade, but they had a counselor come in and they talked about abuse. And they're like, if your parents spank you hard enough that it leaves a red mark, that's abuse. And I remember I couldn't even sit down straight on a chair because my ass was so black and blue from maybe I back-talked my mom or did something I probably shouldn't have done.
Right.
And so, one, I had a family that didn't support me. And I had to make friends that I didn't know. A lot of you guys call yourself Dogtown or whatever you want. I started getting mixed in with you guys. I wouldn't consider like me and you in high school like best buds by all means. Yeah, we knew each other. Probably yelled at each other and didn't like each other at some points, but that's pretty much where it started. Then I went on a mission. I can tell you, I went on a mission. I wanted to do the right thing.
Where'd you go?
I went to Indiana.
Okay.
If you've ever been there, I apologize.
I have not.
There's no mountains.
I've flown over it once.
Yeah. I think everybody has. That's pretty much what Indiana is. It's really flat. There's a lot of trees. You can't see 50 yards because there's so many trees. And I like outdoors. I actually kept track of how many deer I saw out there. That was more important to me than how many people want to learn about the Book of Mormon or anything. But it was English speaking. And I remember one of the first days, my trainer, it was pretty funny. His name's Elder Hornibrook. And a lot of people
forget that.
Yeah. So a lot of the people would be like, how is it Hornibrook or Hornibrook? And I'd be the first person to say, it depends on how you feel. And they'd start laughing about it. And I would always say, you know what, let's change our name to Aroused Water so we don't have to get people confused. Well, anyways, one day we're out there tracting, we're knocking on doors. And being here in Southern Utah, I would say we're mainly white. I've not been around black people or Hispanics that often. Nothing against them. Never had anything against them. So I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I'm knocking on this door. It's probably been 3 or 4 days since I've been out there. Nobody wants to talk to us. Everybody believes in God and Jesus, and they do not want to hear anything that we have to say. So knock on this door, and this lady answers. Her name's Shaquita. And she answers, and she was very interested in what we had to say. She wanted to invite us in, and we're like, well, we have to have another male present. She's like, oh, my baby daddy, he'll be off work here a little bit later if you want to come back. So we end up leaving them. We had all these like different pamphlets about the Book of Mormon, Jesus Christ, a bunch of different things. So I end up leaving a pamphlet, or me and my companion, is called The Restoration. It's just about Joseph Smith's transition, everything that has to do with the restoration. So we leave it with her, set a return appointment. My companion's like, these never work out. Like, we're come back. They'll just ditch us.
Yeah.
Well, we came back, and her baby daddy was back. His name's Jaquan. Okay. So there's Shaquita and Jaquan. Again, I've never heard of these names before being in Southern Utah. And so, anyways, we go in, we start talking to Jaquan. Shaquita's in the other room doing dishes, but there's like a cutout to where she can see us. Like, there's a wall between us, but she's doing dishes, and we're in the living room. And I'm like trying to be the best missionary I can and everything that I've studied and tried to learn. And I was just like really nervous. This is the first person that I particularly was the one talking, not my companion. I'm like, so Jaquan, have you ever heard of Joseph Smith? And he kind of looks up in the air and he's all, yo, Shaquita, who that Joseph Smith be? And I was like, what did he just say? And she's like, that's the one that I told you. He saw God in Jesus. And he's all, fool, that's what's up. That's what's up, fool. I'm telling you, that's what's up. And I know it's true. And I was just like, I'm on an English speaking mission and I don't know what you just said. It just like blew me out of the water. But I met some of the coolest people there. It was awesome.
You're like, so when you getting baptized?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we never had a return appointment with them again, but I met some of the coolest, nicest people there in Indiana. And I have a lot of friends there in Indiana. Again, I didn't like how cold, how flat, how hot, how humid it was, but it honestly was a very eye-opening experience going out there.
Sure. I think that's what a lot of people will get. I mean, they get other things for a mission as well, but some of those people that have lived in one house their whole life, probably one religion your whole life, you're around the same people every day, and then you get put in this completely foreign situation. Yeah. I mean, even the people you're talking to sounds like a different language, right?
Oh, yeah, and that's it. Like I was glad it was English speaking. I would go back today. If I could go on a mission today, I would go back. Zero worries. You don't have to worry about, oh man, what's my cell phone bill? Right. I have a truck payment. I just blew a transmission. I have a hunt that I need to go on next week. Like you don't have any worries. So it was a great experience, and I cherished every bit of it, or I should say most parts of it. I did.
Have you been back over there?
I've not been back.
Okay.
No, not once. I'm counting down the days to go back.
Yeah.
I get off the mission. Again, I had a girl I was talking to the whole mission. Be honest, I went on a mission because of her. She's a great girl. I get back, and long story short, like it doesn't work out. We don't even start dating. It was like we were going to, and then I was like, hey, I need some time. I need to find myself. I know return missionaries are some of the weirdest people ever. I've had friends that have gone on missions and they came back. We're not friends because they were somebody totally different.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that person. So I was like, hey, let's give it a couple weeks. I got back in October. I was like, let's get around Thanksgiving and we'll start dating then. We can still be friends. That made her mad. She got a boyfriend. It made me mad that she got a boyfriend, so I got a girlfriend. Got really serious super fast. A couple months later, I was engaged. A month or two after that, I was married.
That was the first wife.
That was the first wife. So we get married. Probably rushed into it. Pretty young, pretty immature. Again, I was working out there in Kanab.
It just 21.
Yeah, got married when I was 22. Like right about the time I turned 22, we got married. Actually, right before I turned 22. Literally, we were married 1 year. Like it wasn't like we were married a year and 3 days. It was 1 year. And at that point, being LDS and in the household that I have, like divorce is not a question. You fight through whatever you're doing, and I believed in that, and I did my very best. Like I wanted it to work out, but one thing that I learned is I only can control me. I can't control my partner. I can't control what they want, their desires or what. And at the time, I thought it was the worst thing to ever happen to me. I was young men's president in our ward. I was trying to be an example to these youth. And here I am failing is what I felt like. And it made it super bad. Again, I did not believe in depression. I thought that was fake. Everyone just needed to man up. Yeah. And here I am just trying to make a house payment, make a vehicle payment, and I'm literally making $10 an hour. I was not making buku bucks by all means. So it transferred over. I lost that job and ended up working at Lincare Home Oxygen. Honestly, best job, favorite job I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Hanging out with old people.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. There was days, for example, like I was their only outside help. Their family, a lot of them, they didn't have family help. They're in rest homes. And so I'd always be like, hey, when I'm done, maybe being a return missionary, I was just like, hey, is there anything else I can help you out with? So for one example, this lady's like, yeah, can you help me change some light bulbs? So I go and I change these light bulbs. Hey, is there anything else? And she's like, yeah, there's one more thing. I was like, okay, what's that? She's like, do you know what mothballs are? I was like, yeah. And she's like, do you know what they smell like? I was like, I think, because I don't know if she mixed up her medication, what's going on. And she's like, how did you get their tiny little legs apart? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, that was the dirtiest joke I've heard this 80-year-old lady just tell me. And I know it's okay to say it on air because an 80-year-old lady told me it. And I was like, we're friends. Like that was awesome. It totally got me. And I became really good friends with a lot of these people. I had some weird experiences. There was another time, and I'm not sitting here just digging down into some of these things, but I go into this guy's house. He says, knock 3 times, ring the doorbell. I know it'll be you, and come on in. And I go in, and I had to fill his liquid oxygen. It's very similar to filling propane.
Okay.
I take the tank outside. I have a giant tank. I hook it on. It's like negative 300 degrees, whatever. But I walk into his house and I was like, hey, man, what's up? He's all, not much. He's all, don't mind all the blood. And I'm like, oh, great. And I go in the room and it looks like somebody got murdered. There is blood everywhere. And I'm like, oh, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was missing a toenail. And I was like, you find it? He's all, no, I haven't found it. So here I am, like, looking all around, like, I don't want to find his toenail.
Yeah.
And so I get back, fill his oxygen, still didn't find his toenail, whatever. And I'm driving down the road and I look down. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It is sticky side down on my arm.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, this is so gross. I get some Calvicide, start spraying it off, trying to get everything out of here. And it was still one of the funnest places I've ever worked, but I still suffered from, like, I think past almost depression. This is the time I met my wife. So I meet Whitney. We fall in love pretty dang quick. We actually started dating and I dumped her like not that long after. And I think it was because I was scared. I was married before. I loved that girl with all of my heart. And I'm getting those same feelings and I started like pushing back.
Yeah.
And so I had a buddy and he's like, hey, dude, this girl is so cool. He actually called her a Gatorade bottle chick because every time we were hanging out, she always had a Gatorade. We were always doing some type of sports. He's like, dude, that Gatorade bottle chick is so cool. You need to treat her good. Long story short, we end up getting married. I don't know if you've ever been on the Arizona Strip at the Mount Trumbull Schoolhouse.
I don't know. I've been out there, but
it is like 70 miles on the worst dirt road. And then there's a random schoolhouse out there. With me already being married before, I was like, you know what? Let's just go have fun with all our friends. Half of my buddies went out there camping, went shed hunting. One of the craziest things to ever happen to me happened out there. One of the craziest things I've ever experienced. We get married. There's a bunch of people. We probably have like 80 vehicles out there, barely crammed into this.
And she's game.
Oh, dude, my wife is the most badass individual I've ever met in my life. And so totally game. I don't know if her family was all for it, but I was and she was, and that's all that mattered to me. Yeah. So we get out there, we get married, do the ceremony. My best friend, his name's Kenny Hinton. I met him actually at Mill Creek. He's the one that actually married us.
Okay.
He had to become a priest or a pastor or everything. And he's like, dude, I don't know what I want to do. I found an online application. He ended up being like the bishop of the Church of Beer and Deer. And so like even on our, like just, it was fun. We just did whatever we wanted. While we're out there, a plane flies over and lands on the little dirt road that we're on. I was like, oh, this is sweet. Maybe one of my buddies got us a plane ride. This is going to be unbelievable. Whatever. I don't really care. Well, no, it's just a random guy that flew by that was like, I've never seen this many people out here unless it's the Bundy reunion. And there's all this going on. Anyways, he came and like crashed the wedding, had lunch with us, everything. And he's all, hey, before you leave, I want you guys tie up your dogs. And I was like, oh yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah, I just had my dogs at the wedding. So we tie him up and he flies off. Well, probably like an hour later, he comes back and my wife's dog takes off running after this plane. And the most bad thing happened. That dog's barking and it gets its face cut off by a prop.
Oh my
Gets its back hit and its tail cut off. And the dog's still alive. And
Today?
This is at that time.
Okay.
And it's like, there's no putting this thing back together. I grab a gun. It's a Smith & Wesson 40, the most inaccurate gun. I've probably shot at 500 rabbits, never hit a single one. It's not a very accurate gun. I pack that dog down the road a little ways out of view of everybody, and I literally put the freaking gun right between its eyes and pull the trigger. Granted, it doesn't even have a snout. It is gross. It was one of the saddest things. I shoot it in the head, and that thing takes off running back to Whitney. And so here I am trying to shoot it on the run with this inaccurate rifle. It's trying to run to its owner. Everybody's scattering the opposite direction because they don't want to get shot.
Gunshots going off.
Yeah, it's like boom, boom, boom. Somehow I get another one in it. So that's the start of our wedding. About 15 minutes after we get married, my wife's dog of 5, 6, 7 years gets hit by a plane and her husband just shoots it.
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of absolute nowhere. And so Pretty crazy event. I don't know how many dogs have got hit by airplanes. I don't know how many people have had a dog get hit by an airplane at their wedding. It's just an unbelievable.
That might be the craziest story I've ever heard.
Oh, we're just getting started. Yeah, it was gnarly. The next day, my wife, she's still pretty emotional about her dog. I fully understand. I'm a dog person myself. My uncle got the whole thing on video and thought it was a good idea to post it on Facebook.
Oh my gosh.
So it turned into like a little family drama. I wish I wouldn't have said some of the things I said to him, like to take it down, but I was trying to protect her.
Sure.
Yeah, pretty gnarly.
Oh my gosh. He's like, you guys will never believe this shit.
Yeah.
And puts it on Facebook.
Yeah, and to this day I wish I don't want to watch it, but I was like, man, I wish I wouldn't have said anything, because now I could like show all my buddies like this is
This
really
really
what
happened.
happened. To make things worse, a couple days before that, my wife was like, hey, my dog's coming out there with us. And I was like, I hate your dog. It hated me. I said, the best day of my life is going to be when that dog dies.
No.
That is the only way I can remember my anniversaries, because that dog died that day.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible. So how many dogs do you guys have now? What do you have?
We have 3 dogs.
Okay.
So I have a blue heeler, like border collie mixed. It was there at the wedding. And then my wife has a bull mastiff black lab mix. And then we've been babysitting a dog, I think, for 6 years.
Okay.
One of my good buddies is like, hey, will you pick this dog up for me? I will. I'll pay you for it. So we do. It's a purebred red heeler. He has it for like a week. And then he's like, hey, can you guys watch it for me for the weekend? And that was 6 years ago, and we still have it. And he
Never
hasn't-
gave it back?
Yeah, anybody wants a red heeler? My wife would kill me if we got rid of her now, but now
That's
we
part
have
of the family.
Yeah, we have 3 dogs now.
That's cool, man. See, we're dog people. We're dog people. I've had a black lab for a long time. She's 12, I think, 11 or 12. We got Amanda a Labradoodle like 6 years ago, and like I always made fun of. Well, so my wife was going through school,
Yeah.
and so the Labradoodle like grew up in her lap,
Yeah.
right? Like she would sit there and do homework and whatnot because it was online, and the dog would just be in her lap all the time.
For sure.
Like he thought he was a person, right? And so I'd always make fun of him. So I'd always be like, "Oh, he's not even a guy, you know.
Yeah.
He's a sissy, you know, and all this stuff." And like as years went on, he ended up getting seizures.
Oh, wow.
And so first time he ever had it, most terrifying thing I've ever like had to experience. And he's flipping around, foaming, like I thought he was dying. And then he like released himself, released his bowels, released everything. And I'm like, oh, he just died. That was it, you know? And then he like starts coming too.
Oh, wow.
And he's like trying to stand up, and he's like he was drunk.
Yeah.
You know, he's kicking his feet around. And anyway, so we ended up medicating him for like a year and a half, and every now and then he'd have a seizure, but it wasn't super, you know, it wasn't common. And then I started realizing like this is probably the best dog like I've ever been around.
Yeah.
You know, and I made fun of him a lot, but he knew all the tricks. He knew everything. He came when you called him. He would hang out with you, but he like knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
You know, like he had been around Amanda so much that he could just read everything she was doing and he'd react to it. And it got to the point with the seizures where the medication wasn't even touching him anymore.
Oh, man.
And we couldn't up his dose because it was killing his liver, I
Yeah.
think. And so we ended up having to put him down. And it was awful.
Yeah.
Like I think I was more emotional than Amanda. Like she doesn't cry,
Yeah.
and I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we're at the vet. I'm like trying not to cry because it's like her dog, you know, that I
Yeah.
make fun of, but I'm super attached to him.
Yeah.
And so we end up putting him down, and I'm like, I'll never do this again. Like I just can't. Emotionally, I can't handle it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when my dog goes, like I'm done.
Yeah.
And so maybe like a year and a half goes by. She's looked at puppies every now and then, and she wants, and I'm going to butcher how you say the name, but she wanted a Vizsla.
I have
is
no
how you
idea
say
what
it.
that is.
So it's like a red or brown, short hair, German short hair.
Oh, sweet.
So it's a bird dog.
That's awesome.
So it's a Hungarian bird dog is what it is.
Yeah.
Or like a greyhound, you know, kind of like
Yeah.
a red greyhound. And So I started looking at them like $2,000,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I am not spending. I mean, the black lab I paid $50 for.
Yeah.
Just take
And
them.
probably overspent.
Yeah. And she's outliving everything,
Yeah.
you know. And then Reggie, the Labradoodle, I think we spent like $200 on him. And
Yeah.
I was like, $200, you
Yeah.
know. And so anyway, I knew she was looking for one of these dogs. And so I thought, you know, I'm just going to start like calling breeders and see what it would take.
Yeah.
And so I called 4 breeders that were around the United States. And I started getting on waiting lists. And they had waiting lists that were like 4 litters out.
Oh man.
And so
we're looking like years.
Oh yeah. And so I'm like, well, I better start getting on the list
Yeah.
now, you know? And so I get on all these lists. Luckily they weren't like deposits to get on the list
Yeah.
because it was so far out. And I get a call probably November. So not last year, but the year before. So 2020 November.
Yeah.
And this breeder in Logan, Utah, calls me and he's like, hey man, I saw you're on this list. We have 1 female left. The person that's on it can't take it anymore. We've called everybody above you and like nobody's ready for the dog because they were planning out, you know? And I was like, when will she be ready? And she's like, oh, a week before Christmas. And so it was like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, hold on. Like we're having a baby.
Yeah.
So like Will was born the end of October. So we just had a newborn. We're building a house, my businesses, her work. And I'm just like, I don't think I should throw a puppy in on all that, you know? And so like, I really thought about it. I talked to like a couple people in her family. I talked to my mom. I talked to different people. And I was like, well, she's always wanted one of these dogs, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it's either now or 2 years from now. And so I was like, all right, we'll take her. And
Yeah.
so I ended up paying for her, and her brother lived like 10 minutes away.
Oh, nice.
And so her brother just went, and they're dog people. So he just went over, like videoed me, and he's like, here she is, you know,
Do you want this
is
one?
anything wrong with her? You know? And they end up taking her back to their house and brought her down for Christmas. And so
sweet.
like she had no idea.
Oh yeah.
And so Christmas Day, I was like, well, here you go. This is the only gift I have, you know, sorry.
Yeah.
And it was like a pack of bones.
Yeah.
And the only dog we have is mine, you know? And so she's like, the heck is this?
Yeah.
And then I had her brother like drop the puppy over her shoulder, like right
nice.
then. So now we've got that dog, dude. And so her name's Tiva. She is the most energy out of anything I've ever seen. And I had a black lab puppy,
Yeah.
you know? And I mean, I think she'll be a good dog when she chills a little
Yeah.
bit because she's still pretty young. But like I'm kind of getting over that. I'll never do this dog thing again.
Yeah.
But then some days I still hate her. But I don't know, dude. Like animals, and I was never a dog in the house type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Like Maggie, my black lab, was never in the house. And then when Amanda came around, she's like, but it's cold, you know, and
Yeah.
these different things. And so when she got Reggie, he's the hypoallergenic or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So she's like, so he can be inside because he doesn't shed. Because that was my one thing. I don't want dog hair all over me, right? And so he can be inside. He can be inside. Well, then it was like my dog's like freaking shaking outside in the snow, and her dog's like in her lap.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, I just felt bad for Maggie, so I let her in.
Yeah.
And then now dogs are in the house, right?
Yeah. I totally hear you. And I have like a lot of buddies or whatever that are like, hey, I can't believe you guys have 3 dogs. It's like you treat them like kids. And I can tell you, for the life I live and what my wife allows me to do, it is not that big a deal for me to have a couple dogs that she takes 100% care of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I will never go without a dog.
Dogs are easier than kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Keep telling me that. Her let me babysit a kid for like 10 minutes. I'll give it back because
Some birth control right
there.
there.
Yeah. We have enough nieces and nephews that we can spoil and do all that. But the second they poo or whatever, I'm like, here you go.
Mom.
Yep. Go home. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was on the fence with the kid for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having Will. And I love the kid. And I love when I get home and he's there and I'm like, what's up, brother? You know, and he runs up to me. But man, it is hard.
Yeah.
People tell you, oh, it's the best thing I've ever done and it's hard. And I'm like, no, dude, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's only been just over a year, but there's like spurts of good times.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's like the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that's where we kind of made the decision early on, like, we're not going to have kids. I have nothing against kids. Even what I do today with the hunting and everything, it involves kids greatly.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of kids. I mean, special needs, whatever it is, I support kids. I like them, but I don't know if I live a lifestyle that would be okay for kids.
Yeah.
Like nothing against it. I've heard people again in Utah, it's multiply and replenish the earth. It's and I'm like, well, when I multiply and replenish the fridge of milk, I don't go buy 48 gallons. I freaking go replenish it and times it by 1.
Yeah.
And so there's enough kids to go around these days. And I also looked at it, if I was ever going to have kids, it's going to be a foster kid. Because I do think that there's a lot of kids out there that just don't have the opportunities because of maybe the home or how they are raised or whatever environment they are brought into. And so, and I'm not saying I'm going to go foster a bunch of kids by all means, but I think there's plenty of kids out there that need a home. That's nothing against any parent that wants to have a kid. I think that's a pretty cool thing, but for us, it's not.
Well, dude, I'd always feel bad because I was very vocal about not wanting a kid.
Yeah.
And like when friends would come and talk to me, I was always like, yeah, dude, that's not for me. I don't want to do that, you know? And then I had to like calm it down because we would get around friends that like couldn't have kids.
Yeah.
And we didn't know if we could or couldn't, you know, but there'd be some that couldn't, or they're paying like thousands of dollars to go do the therapies or whatever. And I started kind of catching myself. And so people would be like, dude, when you guys having a kid? And I'm like, I don't know, you know, it might happen.
Yeah.
You know, because I'd feel awful about it.
Yeah. And I think I've been in very similar situations where they're pretty much assuming you can't have kids. I think I'm probably doing it wrong. I don't know how to have a kid. So please tell me what to do and I won't do that. But, no, kids are awesome. I do respect parents out there. I have nothing against it. I don't hate kids, but I know growing up, like, as I mentioned a little bit earlier about like kind of a violent household, I don't know how I'd live with myself if my kid was ever scared of me. And I don't ever want to be put in that situation. I know my boundaries. I would never put a kid in that situation to physically harm them, to think I'm bigger or better than them. But if it ever happened, I don't think I could live with myself.
Yeah,
so.
Dude. I was going to ask you, I didn't know if it was going to be too personal, but having that background with your dad or the house you grew up in, because that's me. I'm like terrified of like having something happen and be like, oh my gosh, that was my dad, you know, or have something come out. And we were not like, I was, you know, slapped around a little bit. I was thrown across the room a couple times, and I always say a couple of times I deserved it.
For sure.
And my mom's always like, kids are never deserving of that. And I'm like, I don't know, you know, I did a couple things, but I, even with Will now, there's been a couple times where I'm like, dude, stop, you know, and I have to catch myself to be like, and just little things like that. It makes me nervous. And so I was going to ask you if any of that stems back from
it for sure does. And don't get me wrong, I probably deserve 98% of what happened to me. I've been in Walmart recently and seen kids, and I'm like, their parents need to beat them. Like,
and it's like, they need to bring spanking back.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that there's extremes to things. There's take it in moderation and then I see how the people that I respect the most today, they never had to physically harm me to get there, but it's more of, oh, I'm disappointed in you and how bad you felt in that. And so I'm not a parent. I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kid. I'm not a parent. So just don't beat your kids. Like, I have no problem.
Well, I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with like a controlled discipline.
Oh, for sure.
And do I think that, like in my case, because I can only speak for myself, like when my dad would get to that point, there was no control anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, okay, controlled discipline, rah, rah.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, get me in that point and, you know, maybe I need to go for a walk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I totally hear you. And there's always two sides of the story. I remember being disciplined, or my brothers and sisters, for something they didn't even do, but it got interpreted wrong or whatnot. But again, and I don't want to sit here focus on it. I was kind of like in a confused state about the time I met Whitney. I can honestly say she's like saved my life. She's been the most understanding person. Even to this day, now that I've kind of realized that depression is real and people do suffer, I probably should go talk to somebody. I just don't like expressing my feelings to that. I'd rather make them laugh or do anything like that. So, but there are still days, and I don't know what triggers it. I could be driving to work, or I could be out on the hills or something, and all of a sudden I'll send her a text, and I just have to say, hey, I'm not doing very good. And she'll be the first person, like, she knows how to react with it. She calms me down, talks about it. Most of the time I just have to go set up some still targets and go shoot something at 1,000 yards away to make myself feel better. But she's a freaking a lifesaver. And I'm very, if you want to call it blessed or whatever you'd like to call it, like, I'm very fortunate to have the wife that I have.
That's awesome, man. See, like I said, I hadn't spent a lot of time around her, but when I picture like Whitney in my head, like the little bit of time that I spent around her, it was always like happy, upbeat, big smile. And that's what I picture her as. And so when I think about how you talk about her, I'm like, yeah, I could totally see her fitting into that role.
Yeah. She's very like, I've heard you talk about your wife and like how she's always outgoing, hiking, physically fit, worried about eating apples or whatever it is. And I'm the total opposite. I'm like, I'm going to eat as many cheeseburgers as possible and then hike up that big mountain. I'm going to regret it, but the cheeseburger tastes way better.
Yeah.
But with my wife, she does volleyball, basketball. She's still to this day signed up for all these different sports, and she plays them throughout the year. And I don't go to a single one of her events. And the reason being is my wife's the nicest person ever until she's playing sports. And I've seen her, my wife's tall. I'm 6 foot. She's 5'11". I slouch. I tell everybody I'm taller than her. She's probably taller than me. I don't really care. But I've seen her threaten these 100-pound chicks with their lives that she's going to go murder their families type of things. And I don't like seeing that side of her. And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm not even going to go to these events. I support them 100%, but I don't like seeing my wife. And I want, in my mind, knowing she's the nicest person in the world.
Dude, that's hilarious. That's funny. That competitiveness comes out and you're like, you go do you.
Yeah. And she's cool with it. She lets me go do whatever I want. I literally, like, I can do whatever I want. So
yeah, like and what you go do, like, you have to have that support.
Yeah.
And having having a wife at home that's blowing you up, wondering what's going on, when you're going to be back, when this 20 questions, like, that just wouldn't support the lifestyle you have.
Yeah. And with that, like, going from doing that Lynn Care business, I got transferred to St. George, met some of my best friends to this day still work there or have transferred from there. But it got to a point where I was guiding for a pretty big outfit in Arizona. And I was doing mule deer hunts on the Arizona Strip for them. And they would always joke around, what can we get you to do full time? What can you get to do full time? And I never made a ton of money. I was just like, I would do guiding. I'd make enough money on it to justify it, but it would be like, make $5,000 in a week. That might sound like decent to a lot of people, but when you spend $3,800 the months ahead with your optics, vehicle repairs, and then you come home with $6 in your pocket, that's reality.
Sure.
But I was like, you got to pay me a lot. I'll go full time, but you got to pay me a lot. So I actually got the opportunity in 2015. 2014, I quit, and I guided hunts for this particular company full time. And it was some of the best days I've ever had in my life. I don't know if you've spent any time by Monticello or Blanding.
Not much.
So yeah, either have I. And here I am in May. They're like, you're going to go out there and you're going to learn everything about that mountain range. You're going to guide elk hunts. You're going to guide deer hunts. I'm like, okay. I remember the day I left Lynn Care, I had a Dodge truck hooked up to my camper with my side-by-side. I'm like, I guess we're doing this. And I drove out 9 hours out there. Middle of the night, get out there, have no idea what I'm doing. There's no self-service, anything. And I find a spot with self-service, and I honestly bawled my eyes out talking to my wife. I said, I don't know if I made the wrong decision. I know I walked away from $14 an hour job that I knew I could go 8 to 5 and make this paycheck every single week.
Yeah.
It was kind of scary, but I've learned in my life, if you don't take those risks, there is zero reward. So going out there, it was like a full-time job, but people don't realize it's 24 hours. It's not I clock out and go home.
Yeah.
It would be, they had a pretty good schedule. I'd work 5 days a week scouting, trying to find deer, elk. I had my dog. We became best friends. He is unbelievable trained. Just like there'd be times I'd call in a bull elk. My dog would sit there and let that thing get closer. And as the bull elk's getting closer and closer, it'd be crouching down in the grass and like knowing that it can't bark. And then I'd be like, get it. And then it'd like take off running after it. Like we shot a lot of squirrels. Like it was just fun.
That dog's having the time of its life.
Oh
man.
yeah. That dog since then has probably gained 80 pounds. It's like, come on, Dad, take me out. And so, it was all fun. It was awesome. And then I got a hunter, and like the hunter that I was doing it for in Utah, you can buy tags. So I had one guy that bought like 10 tags out there. He bought elk tags and deer tags, and these aren't cheap tags. One of his tags was $208,000. Like, and I'm out there just trying to find the biggest elk, the best deer, and all this. And there was a lot of things that I failed on. There were things that I would have done different today if I was going to go back out there, but it wasn't fun anymore. It turned it into just the people I was working for, turned it more into this is a job. You can't have fun. How come Joe Blow down the road shot this deer and you didn't even have a picture of it? Like, and it was like, are you kidding me? I'm trying my best. And then, hey, I blew my tranny in my truck. I'm going to be trying to get out here the best I can. And it was just like, no, you need to get that done now. You need to be out there now. We don't pay you this money to do this. And it made it not fun anymore. And so in the off season, I had buddies that guided, but they owned a steel construction business. And they're like, hey, come build some steel buildings with me. I was like, okay. I thought I was only going to be working 6 months out of the year, and the other 6 months I was just going to go play around and not do anything. But I started building steel buildings. And so we went everywhere. We were out there in Ferguson, Missouri when the whole cop scandal's going on. And I can honestly say I've never seen more patriotic people in my life than what's out there. And as you've talked about on here before, the news doesn't know what's going on. They want you to think they know what's going on. And so I never saw more, I'll call it how it is, black people running Confederate flags, so patriotic. But the news wants you to think that that's the most devilish thing and that's racist. And it's like, no, there's a small individual group of people that turn things, turn it around on you. And us being here in Utah, looking at the news, you're like, oh my goodness, that's scary. No, there was there's one group of people that flipped over one cop car and lit it on fire. The officer was one of the guys that actually we were building a big U-Haul storage unit for. And he's like, I went outside and was like, oh shit. Cop car's on fire. I better go inside and let my sergeant know. It wasn't like on some big old battle or anything like that. But the very next year, I went from doing, I think I did like 16 hunts in 2014. And the next year, they can only promise me one.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, there's no money. I can't make a living making $6,000 a year or whatever
Right.
it became. And I had a buddy that worked there that ended up quitting and starting his own business. And that's Shadow Valley Outfitters. His name's Bob Dykeman. He hit me up. He's like, hey, Trevor, I want you to work for me. He didn't really know me that well. I did one hunt that he was involved with in Arizona. And I was like, sorry, I'm going with this other guys. I already committed to him. And he's like, okay, well, first time they screw you over, give me a call. And it was not even 2 or 3 weeks later, shit hit the fan. And I gave him a call and he's like, dude, I don't got a hunt for you, but I want you here. He's like, you're one of the funniest guys. I like having you around. And he took a big chance on me. He's all, but I don't have a hunt for you. And I was like, okay, well, maybe 2016, I'll get going with you. And he's like, yeah, for sure. He called me back and he's like, dude, I just booked you 2 hunts. I need you to come over. Again, 2 hunts isn't going to support me. We're making 10 grand. You can't not live on 10 grand a year. So, I remember I was building the steel building. I was actually in Denver, Colorado at this time, and I had booked these hunts. I was going to go hunt for these guys, but the only way I was making money was building these steel buildings. And I had a buddy on Snapchat, and he sends me this video. Every day he was in Vegas, or he was in Mesquite, or he was in Zion's, and he was always sending me these coolest videos. I'm like, dude, what do you do for work? And he's like, oh, I work for a plumbing supply company in St. George. I was like, no way. It seems like a cool gig. And he's all, yeah, if you had your CDL, I'd get you a job. I said, well, I do.
Well, matter of fact.
Yeah. So he's like, no shit, you do? I was like, yeah, for sure. And so he sends me his boss's information, and I do an interview over the phone, and his name's Bevan Lang. He's actually the area manager now for Mountain Land Supply.
Okay.
And so he was like, if everything checks out, you have a clean driving record, all of that, I promise you we'll hire you. Okay, I come in. I was like, just so you know, I am driving from, we're actually still working on that Missouri job and the Denver job. I'm like, when do you need me to come in? He's like, can you be here at 11 tomorrow? I was like, it's going to be like a 15-hour drive, but I'm heading off now. I'll be there. And so I work for Mountain Land Supply. It's a plumbing and HVAC supply company, and It is really cool. They needed a CDL driver so bad that I told them, I said, I guide hunts in the fall, and I need as much time off as I need. And they were so desperate for a person, they made the mistake and they hired me.
They're like, done.
Yeah, no, we're gonna hire you. So I've been with them for 6 years. It's an unbelievable, literally one of the best companies I've ever even heard of. They value their employees. It's an ESOP company, so it's an employee stock owned program. So every single employee is an owner. You can't buy into their company. The retirement's unbelievable. They invest so much into each employee. So I started here in St. George, just as a CDL driver, tricked a lot of people into allowing me to move up. And I literally work half a year for them. Right now, from August 1st, I clock out, and I do not clock back in until I'm done hunting in January or February.
That's awesome.
And they are 100% down for it. I currently I'm a warehouse manager for the store in Cedar City, which we opened up 2 years ago. And I work with some of the coolest people ever. I'm gone. I'm over like a big department, but I'm gone all the time that really I don't need to be there. I have so many guys that just take over when I'm gone, but it's, as an owner, you own your company.
Yeah.
You
I don't
tell
have
me
someone like that.
Yeah. You tell me all the time, or you say like how you do 18-hour days or 12-hour days. It's because, if you don't, it won't succeed.
Exactly.
And I'm the same way. Yes, that we have a couple hundred employees, but it's the same mindset of, hey, I need to get this done. I need to take care of the customer. I need to go the extra mile. Just like you said, there's safes that you sell that might be better for them to go to Sportsman's and buy a rink-a-dink one.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I might be like, hey, you need that sprinkler fixed? Home Depot sells that. I want to sell you this, but you can go get it fixed and do the same thing at Home Depot. And we have a lot of good that goes on there. So literally, like I said, they allow me to work 6 months out of the year. So I have a very good full-time job, but also Shadow Valley and Mogollon Rim can use me for a lot of hunts. So even like this year, as you know, draw results aren't out in Utah. They're partially out in Arizona. All the elk draws, I've already booked up elk hunts. I have hunts in Nevada that for landowner tags that are bought. And I bet I'll do 10 to 15 hunts a year part-time, like half the year.
Dang.
And the other half the year I can go pretend to be a plumber or a HVAC guy. So
is it the same way that you draw here in Arizona and Nevada, or is it different?
pretty similar. Yeah, you put in for your point system. And I personally, I hunt all over. Me and my wife, that's one good cool thing is my wife hunts way more than I do, probably. Like we had a hunt this year in New Mexico, or 2021 in New Mexico, Arizona. We hunt all over. Hopefully we'll get New Mexico again, Wyoming. Like we do a lot of different hunts. And I don't know, I when I worked for the other outfit, I'd come home and just want to stare at the wall. Like I was like, the last thing I wanted to do was go hunting again.
Yeah.
And it's nice to work for people that care about you and appreciate you. And so,
well, that's awesome though. You found two places that will do that. Some people never come across that once.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. It is a dream job. My parents told me from day one, I never could make any money or be able to make a living hunting. That's been my number one goal. Is I always wanted to go hunting. Yeah. I wanted to figure out a way to make money about it. And so there's a lot of different outfits and a lot of different people out there, but I think I found probably the best ones to fit my personality.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, it's funny you were saying, I was telling Mallory when I got here, because it was like, so it's 7:30 now, it was 6:30 when I got here. And she's like, do you need a Mountain Dew? And I'm like, yes, I'm going on 13 hours right now. I was like, I do need one.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's cool, dude. The whole hunting thing. So I've only been hunting for, this will be my 6th year.
Oh, wow.
And so I haven't been hunting a lot. My parents were more, they weren't anti-gun, but they weren't like, we didn't have guns growing up.
Yeah.
My mom's parents did. So we would shoot 22s, BB guns, whatnot with them. I was with my grandpa when I bought my first rifle. And so he was there and helped me pick it out. And now it's like, I mean, I sell safes and I have to buy a bigger safe because I can't fit anything.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah. And so it's been a fun thing to get into. I got a story to tell you, but I'm curious, what's the funnest thing that you've hunted, or what do you enjoy hunting the most? Is it deer?
Deer 100%.
Is it?
Yeah. But I've been on some crazy hunts. Like my wife drew an oddad tag in New Mexico a couple years back.
I don't know what that is.
It's called a Barbary Sheep. They're from, I believe, Africa, but some dude let them go and they became overpopulated. And now the Game and Fish actually manages them. There's oryx there. There's oddad and ibex.
Okay, I've heard ibex.
And so there are all these weird African animals that are in New Mexico. But done that. We hunt sandhill cranes. We try to do that as often as we can. Like literally, 2 weekends ago, there was a deer convention in Arizona. I had fuel prices. I'm not one to complain about fuel prices. They suck, but I'm still need to do what I need to do.
It's not stopping you.
It cost me $700 to pull a trailer down to Phoenix to pick up 2 stupid bird mounts but we got these 2 sandhill cranes. They literally have 8-foot wingspans. They're these huge things, and I have them hanging in the roof in my living room right now.
Dude, that is awesome.
It's pretty cool. A lot of people, that's how my wife is. She's always like, I need to figure out space so we can put another elk head in here, or an antelope head, or whatever. It's like a mini Cabela's at our house.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's where I want to be. I've got a vault room at the house, and that's like my dream, is to have everything mounted all across the walls, and a cabin. That's my other thing, is to have a cabin and have at least a couple big animals there. But I'm trying to, and I'll know next week a lot more on it. I'm trying to get set up to go do a bear hunt in Canada.
We actually went, we're going bear hunting. We have one for next year for 2023.
Oh yeah?
Where Whitney actually has the tag. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm kind of scared because I don't want to be in the wilderness with a bear.
Oh, they're fine.
but I was telling my brother today that I was in the Tetons. It was a few years ago now with my in-laws, and they're all hiking, biking, right? All the active stuff that I'm like, more like I always wanted to eat a cheeseburger and not hike up the hill. and I was sitting at camp, and my mother-in-law was in a hammock sleeping. Yeah. And one of the camps next to us was like, what is that? What is that? And I was kind of like just paying attention to everything, and I look over, and in between us and like the bathroom for our campground, you're maybe, I don't know, 15 yards. Yeah. There's this bear, this freaking black bear just like walking. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I kind of like freeze up, and Terry, my mother-in-law's in between me and the bear. Yeah. And she's, I don't know, I would hate to guess. She's 80 pounds soaking wet. I mean, she's very, very small. And so all of a sudden these people start screaming, bear, bear, bear. And so I jump up, and she comes like back flipping out of her hammock, and I run up to her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a bear right there. And she's like, yep. And then she just starts clapping. She just goes, here, bear, get out of here, bear. And just starts clapping, dude. And I'm terrified. I'm like, where's the bear spray, you know? And she just starts yelling at it. And I'm sure these things are so aware of people because they're always around there. Yeah. And it just goes walking by us, and I've got a video of the whole thing, and it walks right behind all of our tents. Yeah. And then just like goes across the road and disappears into the trees. And I'm sitting there like, after I realized what was happening, I've got like my little mother-in-law, like shielding me from this bear. Yeah. And she's clapping and yelling at it, and it hightails it out of there. And so like I think about that, and I was like, okay, that wasn't so scary, you know? I mean, I was peed myself a little bit, but my mother-in-law scared it away. I think I can handle it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And that's one thing, like I have encountered a bunch of like random wild animals and everything. I haven't died yet. But it's pretty cool. I'd be more probably like your mother-in-law. I'd pull out my phone or something and try to get it a little bit closer, but That's cool. Hopefully,
Yeah.
if you go to Canada this year, I need to hear everything that
Yeah,
I need
dude.
to get up there.
I think it's like the end of May. Like it's coming up.
Yeah, so we have that bear hunt, and then I have like a tuna fishing trip down like off of Mexico, and then we're going to Africa, and Africa does not make you. But
really?
Canada does currently. So I'm like, please have that go away.
You're like, I got a year to drop
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So have you hunted bear before?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
Have you been? I mean,
I've been
with all your
around.
scouting,
I've been to
you've
ton.
around
Oh,
them?
I've seen hundreds of bears, and they're freaking strong. Like I remember one time I was on the Bajo Mountains, and that's out there by Monticello, and
Okay.
there's this bear up on this hill, and there's probably a rock the size of a 4-wheeler, and I just see this thing like pushing on this rock, and I'm like, I really had no idea. I'm looking like a mile away through my optics, and all of a sudden it rolls this rock down the hill, and the rock probably weighs 2 tons, and there's this little black bear, and then it just starts grubbing on whatever it can behind it and underneath it. But bears, I don't know. I've never hunted them. I don't really care to hunt them with dogs. That's
Yeah.
not my style. I have a lot of buddies and a lot of people that hunt bears with dogs. I would rather honestly sit over a bait or
I think
spot
that's
and
what
stalk.
these guys do. Is they baited in and got blinds.
Yeah.
But, like some of those videos when people are up in trees and
Yeah.
those things freaking just like huff up a tree in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, bag that, dude. I don't need about that noise.
Oh man, just a bear.
So speaking of bears, what's the scariest story
That's
situation you've been in?
same mountain I was telling you on the Bajo. So I'm driving my truck. I'm with my dog. It's probably, I would say, mid-May of when I got out there, and I'm driving to get to the top of this ridge to walk down and start glassing for elk, and I'm going, and all of a sudden there are 2 cubs that cross the road right in front of me, these little like fur balls. I'm like, those are so rad. And at the time, like if you got on my social media now, you'd realize I'm not very social, but back then I was taking pictures and videos of GoPros and have all my cameras set up, and so I'm like, I'm going to get the most badass video of these 2 cubs. So I go, and me and my dog are just sitting there trying to get like this video. And I'm like, where's the mom?
Yeah.
Like it didn't even cross my mind. It was one of like the first 5 bears I've ever seen in my life. So I turn around, and the mom is standing on the other side of the road, and she's not like screaming or growling or anything, but I was like, I'm in a bad situation, and all I have is a Buck Mark 22 sitting in the truck 50 yards behind me. Like, dog, good luck. So
You slow them down, I'll run.
yeah. And my dog starts barking, and that mama bear just cruised around, like kind of looped barely around and got to the cubs, and nothing happened,
deal.
but I was scared. I'm not going to lie. It was just like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But a very similar situation, probably the scariest encounter that I've had with a wild animal was a cougar. I was on the Arizona Strip. This was actually last year. Me and Hunter were running trail cameras. So we had like this big trail camera operation where we'd have 50, 60 trail cameras set up, and we learned that if you go at night in the middle of the summer, it's a lot cooler than if you're going in 105 degree weather throughout the whole
Makes sense.
middle of the desert. So we would do like, I would start on one side of the loop, he'd start on the other, and we just check cameras towards each other, and then eventually we'd meet in the middle, throw up our hammocks or our cots, and sleep. So I'm like, man, this loop had like 12 cameras on it, and I've done like 9 of them. I was like, wonder if he's broke down. We do have satellite phones, but yeah, you have service most places, but it's not everywhere. I can't get a hold of him. Anyways, I'm on this. There's this one spot you park, and you have to walk like 200 yards. And I am the least prepared person ever. So I don't even have a headlamp or a flashlight. It's whatever juice my battery and my phone has. And Hunter had told me, he's like, hey, I ran out of locks when I set a bunch of these cameras. So just so you know, some of them are wired shut, super tight. You're going to have to cut the wires, put new locks on them. Okay, no big deal. So I never ran into any of them, except for on this one, I finally get to one that didn't have a lock. So I walked the 200 yards out there in the middle of nowhere, and literally no cell phone service. We're probably like 2 hours from any hospital or anybody to help us. Yeah. And I get out there, and I'm like, crap, I forgot my cable or my wire cutter. So I had to walk back to the truck. I get back to the truck, and I'm fiddle farting with this camera. Well, how cameras work is they're like, they sense something walking by, their motion sensors go off, and they take pictures. in Arizona, there's a lot of competition on the hunting side of things. Every water hole or every area that the deer go in, there's like 30 cameras.
Yeah.
And they're all friends of mine, or most of them are. And so like sometimes we'll take funny pictures with them, but whatnot. I'm sitting there and I'm messing around with this camera, and all of a sudden I hear, and I'm like, why are all these cameras taking pictures? Like, I'm not in their way, and I didn't think anything of it. And they're all infrared, so they just shine like a little red light. But I can hear the shutter going off, and I'm like, what the heck's whatever. And I keep going, and they keep happening. And I grab my phone just to like turn around to see, and there's a mountain lion. I'm only like 6 yards from the water. It's just like a foot by foot thing, and it just starts, and I don't know what to do. Again, all I have is a pair of pliers and whatever I have in my pockets. And I start getting scared, and I start barking like a dog. It's like 2 a.m, pitch black, and here's this cougar just freaking out on me. And so I start barking, trying to get this sucker to like run off, I don't know what to do in that situation. I'm not a professional cougar scare offer. And so I have a pair of pliers. I'm like, I'm going to hold these in my hand. I'll beat it if I need to. But I start like scrounging around with my hands on the ground, keeping one hand on the light and the other one going around. I had slivers up underneath my fingernails. I get a rock maybe the size of a golf ball. I'm like, I better make this thing count. At this time, the cat had walked off maybe 4 or 5 yards. So it's probably sitting at 12 to 15 yards. And I give it as good a throw as I can. I want to tell people I hate it. I have no idea if I did. The thing jumped and took off running, and I ran even faster back to my truck. And I got there, and I'm like freaking out. I left everything. It's all torn down. The camera's laying on the ground, and I just get on the road and start hauling, and I run into Hunter right then. He's like, dude, what's going on? What's going on? Are you okay? It's like, dude, I about got eaten by this giant mountain lion and all this. He's like, are you serious? So then we got brave and went back. And when we go back, I'm like, dude, this thing was the size of a freaking grizzly bear. And he's like, all right, yeah, we're going to have pictures of it for sure. The only picture we have is of a mountain lion that's probably no bigger than a house cat. Like it was so big when I was there, though. I was so scared.
You're face to face with
it.
it.
Yeah. And all you do is see like their reddish eyes. And it was one of the more scary things. I didn't die, didn't get attacked, but it was like, I was scared. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I told Hunter that I was just fine, but I was scared.
So was there, like, do you know any of the other guys that would have had pictures or video?
So, yeah, there's one local guy here that I was like, man, you need to check your camera. We all have them all named and everything. So I was like, this is where it's happening. And he's like, dude, I didn't get pictures of it. Our camera died. But another outfit's like, dude, we got pictures of you and a mountain lion. But the thing is, they're set up to like take a picture one every 30 seconds or one every minute. I wish somebody had it on video mode. They only usually do if there's a big deer in the area, and there wasn't. But I wish I had more proof of like what happened. I want to see how I look scared.
Dude, I'm terrified. Like, I call them jungle cats. Like, I don't screw around with any jungle cats, man. I mean, I'd be all over dogs, I think, and I would do that with dogs.
Yeah.
But I always figure if you're out there trying to hunt it's more likely hunting you.
Oh, for sure.
And so I don't even mess around with that.
Yeah.
Like, you know the Rolling Bones guys?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I did another membership with them, and they're doing a rifle long range shooting course, and so I signed up for it, and I was just kind of clicking through some of their hunts, and some of those ones with the freaking mountain lions and stuff, I'm like, I don't know, dude, I don't know if I would even pay to go do that. That's terrifying. Have you ever shot one? Have you hunted?
I've shot one, yes. Nothing to write home about. One day I want to kill a big one, but today's not the day. Like, I don't
know, that'd scare me, dude.
But
they're on the Arizona Strip all over the place.
There's
right?
a bunch of them. And what's nice, they finally changed the laws. Something that we as hunters like pushed for is it used to cost, I think it was like $190 to get an over-the-counter tag. That might not sound like a ton to some people, but if you're a resident, they're like $35. And so we're like, hey, nobody wants to drive from Phoenix all the way up here to hunt them when we live here in St. George and we're 10 miles away. And so they actually lowered the price. I believe it's $50 now for non-residents, but you can buy them over the counter. So there's guys that are on, if I heard their name, I would know. They're guys on Instagram that do a bunch of stuff with dogs down there.
I mean, what is something like, is that somewhat affordable to do that?
Yeah,
Because the tag's not much.
It just depends on what's affordable to you, or
Sure.
like
Yeah, it's all relative, right?
I hear people complain that the deer tags went up to $45, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's nothing. But like we put in for hunts at New Mexico, you have to pay everything up front. There's been multiple times we have $8,000 on our credit card just to hopefully we can go elk hunting.
Yeah.
And so, you're probably looking at $4,500 to get some dogs. And again, there's negotiations that go
Yeah.
on. We offer some cougar hunts, not me personally, but we do have guys that do them. I could get people in touch with them, but that's not my forte. Like,
Yeah. So you're more deer, elk.
I love deer. I that's my thing. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's weird.
Cool, man. I mean, I appreciate you coming. I love the stories. I haven't hunted for a long time, so when I get with someone that has, like, I just shut up, dude, and I just listen to the stories about it, because I feel like I can kind of have a touch of that experience that someone else has gone through.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like, not to keep on rambling on, but one thing that I do like is how much the hunting community has like come together. Like, everybody that hunts here in Utah usually knows each other for the most part.
Yeah.
But like, just one quick story. I was
Yeah.
out hunting it was on the Strip this year, and I had a normal hunting client, but one of the guys that guides with us, his son had a brain, I don't know if it was tumor or cancer or maybe the same thing, but they offer these youth hunts that people, if they turn back their tags, they go to, sometimes it's wounded vets or special needs kids. And we always, the last few years, we've been picking up those hunters, and we just do it for free. But this happened to be one of the guys that guides with us. It was his son. And
That's cool.
there's a lot of competition out where we hunt. Like, it's not, you don't get up on a hill and you're all by yourself. Usually you have 3 or 4 other outfitters. They're doing the exact same thing that you are. But what was cool that I saw this year is like some of our direct competitions. Now that we're friends when we're not hunting, but when we're hunting, it's all, we're throwing it all on the line, and I'm for sure going to get it before them. That doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while it does. And it was cool because Andrew's kid was hunting with us, and we were by another outfit, and I glass up a buck and I walk over to him, and we aren't looking for the world's biggest deer for this kid. This kid's literally, it's going to be his first deer.
Yeah.
But it is a nice buck. And so I walk over to the other outfit that's pointing their glass in the same direction I see the deer, and I was like, hey, did you guys see that deer? And they're like, yeah, are you with that kid? And I was like, well, right now I'm not, but the kid is like in our group.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you care if we keep eyes on it? We want to watch him shoot that thing. And so here are like grown men coming together. And so I get the guys on the radio, we get them over there. And it turned into a rat race. But here's 3 competitors that honestly, we will cut each other's throats to kill a deer or try to get a deer out from under them, but they're all working together. And it was pretty cool to see. I lost the deer. All of a sudden I hear a whistle and the guy's pointing down like, hey, it totally J-hooked you guys. And anyways, we end up, long story short, getting the deer killed. And before we can even get over to this dude's mobbing us side by side down the hill, hey, you guys don't need to walk over there. I'll give you a ride. And it was just cool how the hunting community can be so cutthroat and everyone wants to outdo the next guy. But the second a kid is involved, get them involved. I'm a huge fan of that. Utah's a huge fan of that. The only reason why kids are not hunting is because adults are just not giving them tags. We have a cool program here in Utah. It's called I don't know exactly what it's called. It is the Mentorship Program.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Anybody with a tag can give it to a kid under 18. It doesn't matter if you're related or not. So I put in for a lot of hunts that I could give 2 shits about. I put in for doe hunts and cow elk hunts. Every time I get that tag, I give it to a kid. And anybody that has a kid out there that wants to go hunting, if I have a tag this year, call me out on it. I will give them my tag. I don't care what hunt it is. And this isn't to pat myself on the back. It's just get kids involved. I got involved at a young age. My dad didn't get me involved. My oldest sister got me involved, which is a little weird. Like she got me into the hunting thing, and it's the best thing to ever happen for me. If somebody tells you can't do anything, use that as power to prove them wrong. I do make a living out hunting. I'm not a millionaire. I don't give two shits to become a millionaire unless somebody wants to hand me some money over.
You're not going to turn it down.
No, I'm not going to turn it down, but just do what makes you happy. I can tell you for myself with the depression thing, I'm the happiest when I'm hunting. The worst day hunting still has been better than my best day at work. Like I connect way better out there.
So how does the mentorship thing work? So do you have to be there?
Yes.
I mean, so explain that a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I would be surprised if there was. I would not be surprised if there was someone that did reach out to you.
Yeah. Please
explain
do.
how that works.
So what's cool is, I know we all want to go hunting. If I have a tag and I get with the mentorship program, I think it's like $8. I'll pay it. I don't give it.
Yeah, I'll pay it.
It's not that big a deal. I can still keep my tag. So can the kid. You have 2 guns that you're hunting with, or bows or muzzleloaders, whatever. Both of you can be hunting at the same time. Once an animal is dead, the tags are both filled. So it's like my nephew, for example. I had a tag and I was like, called my sister up. Hey, I have this tag. I want to give it to him. She's like, you only can hunt a couple days of the hunt. And I'm thinking, well, I can hunt 18 of the days, and if he only can hunt 2, it doesn't slow me down. I'm going to go hunt 2 days with that kid, and if we don't get anything killed, now I can hunt the rest of it by myself. So
you're not forfeiting it because he can't.
And he ended up killing, and I honestly, it was one of the greatest things ever. I don't have I'm not a huge family guy. I'm more of a friend guy, but it gave me that connection with my nephew that I normally won't have. And so, yeah, honestly, if there's anybody out there that wants to go hunting, wants to do anything, I don't care if it's a turkey or a freaking sandhill crane or a swan or an elk or an antelope, anything, and get kids involved. That's all I can say is, if you're against hunting, I support that. I'm not against people that are against hunting. Everybody teach their own. I am not a murderer. I went from 2007 to 2017 having a tag every single year, multiple states even, and I didn't even kill anything. I think if you don't feel bad for shooting an animal, there's something morally wrong with you. I'm not saying I'm going to bawl every time I shoot a deer. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to high five somebody or give them a hug. But some of the more spiritual experiences I've ever had have been hunting. I don't go to church. I'm not a big church guy. If you are, cool. My connection with God has been so much greater out hunting. This isn't telling everybody to stop going to church and go hunting, but we're meant to hunt. We're meant to eat meat. We're not meant that. We're designed to eat meat, and I don't think you should just go out hunting I hunt for the head, but I eat every single thing that I kill. And so,
2 points on that for me. So I had a neighbor take me for the first time, and I expressed this to him just recently, and again, this was 6 years ago. So I just sent him a message. There was some drama on Facebook with him.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a message, and I was like, look, dude, there was some drama with a family member that was kind of bashing him a little bit. And everyone was sticking up for him, right? Oh, this isn't who he is. You're talking BS, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just sent him a private message, and I was like, dude, I will always look up to you for taking me out hunting for my first time. You owed me nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a big family thing for them. It's like a family reunion, and then it's also the hunt. And so I wrote this huge thing out, and I was like, you didn't owe that to me. You did it for me. You spent extra time with me.
Yeah.
After everybody had left, you were there with me to try and get one, and then we ended up getting it last day.
Yeah.
And then we took it back to his house and skinned it, and did all of that stuff at his house till 2:00 in the morning, and so to have that, what you're saying, my point is they don't have to be a nephew, they don't have to be a friend's kid. Just being able to share that experience with someone, it'll always stay with me. The time that he spent to help me try and get an animal. Second thing, for me, when I first shot that first one, I mean, it was jumping up and down, got him. And then when you walk up on it, I always think about the American Sniper movie when he's like, it's a hell of a thing to stop a beating heart, or
Yeah,
a hell of
yeah,
a thing to kill
yeah.
something. And that was kind of like the expression I had walking up on it,
Yeah.
you know, and I was like, okay, like, and yeah, I wasn't crying, but there's definitely like just this pause,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't want to say like moment of silence, not anything like that. It was just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, okay, this thing like just gave its life, and now, you know, I'm going to eat it, and and I still have the horns from the first deer I
for
killed.
sure.
But I don't know. I think that people that would disagree with that, I would almost be like, okay, like just hear me out. Just give it a try.
Yeah.
Because if you disagree with it, it's probably because you haven't done it.
That is just it. I don't think I've ever met anybody that went out hunting that said, "Oh, this was not fun," or "You guys were barbarians." It's all just like, you go out there, you have a connection with the world. It's getting out of cell service. It's getting off of the internet, and it's just breaking away. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of people that do it, and they have to take a picture of every single thing, and they have to do these Facebook lives. Hey, I'm out here stalking this 2-point or whatever it is. That cool. I can't diss them. I think the world right now, everybody is pushing away from one another. In the hunting world, it's huge. There's people like, oh, you like trail cameras, you don't, screw you, whatever. But we just need to just come together. Just need to be nice to people. That's one thing I've done a lot of. And I'm not like the most charitable person out there, but I've never regretted being nice. I've never regretted helping a kid. I've never regretted doing anything. There's a guy, he's actually running for Iron County Commissioner, his name is Stephen Miller, and he does this thing called the Fish and Fun events every June. I do it. At first it was for dedicated hunter hours, but since the first time I did it, I haven't had dedicated hunter, and I've done it every single year. I think I'm going like on 7 years, and it's literally taking special needs kids fishing. And it is one of the most badass things I have ever done. The first time I went, I was like, I'm just doing this to get my 8 hours.
Right.
Hopefully this kid doesn't screw up my boat. Like do I hand him a $500 rod and reel and say, good luck? No, this kid could care less about fishing. He wanted to honk my horn and drive around Sand Hollow. And so we were the annoying dude cruising around honking our horn. And I went and done it every single year. I've seen kids catch fish. I've seen most of them not. But it made my feel-goods feel good. Yeah. And I think we need more of that type of stuff. Anybody that has a boat, look on Facebook, the Fish and Fun event. I'll be there every year. It is freaking fun.
When is that?
It's in June.
Dude, call me when you do that. Dude, I've got a pontoon that we go fishing off of.
And that's what they honestly need, pontoons. There's kids in wheelchairs. There's kids. I have like a bass boat, but it's
Hit me up, dude. I'll do it.
It is. It's cool. The 222 sponsors it.
Really?
So they show up and they have a giant pontoon boat. And
so that's the National Guard.
Yep,
yeah.
The National Guard. They're there. It's cool. You show up. First, I'm like, I don't know if I want this person backing my boat up, but they back the boats in. You load up. They take everything. You give them the keys of your truck. You get in. It's super safe. If you have any kids, anybody with special needs, anything, I don't care if it's for this fishing fun event, I will go drown a worm and take your kid fishing, or you can come with me. And so it's just more of that. Like, I think the world would be a better place. There's times I've handed a guy $50 or $5, and I don't want to lie and say $50. I've handed a guy on the side of the road $5. I don't know if he's buying meth or if he's buying gas or if he's buying. I can't decide what he's buying with it. I've never regretted it. I don't know what he's buying with it, but in my heart, he's buying food, he's buying gas or whatever. And so I just think if we were nicer to one another, if there was more people out there that just looked at a person as a person and not like, oh, I'm better. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I just think that we just need more nice things to do. Everybody has their talents. Some people might be football or basketball or sewing or whatever it is. Just share that with an individual to better their life. And so that's all.
I love that, dude. That's a great rant right there. Yeah, dude. I loved you coming on. I love the stories. I hope that sooner or later I get to go hunting with you sometime. I'd even enjoy just spending the time. I need the time first right now, but I'm trying to get businesses, like you were saying, to the point where I'm not hovering over it every day all the time. And when that point, like the bear hunt thing, like I've got the opportunity to go. It's all private land. It's, the whole thing's paid. I mean, you pay for it, but then they cook the food, they do all of it. And I'm just like, I just don't even know if I can get the 5 days off to go do it.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer. It's a bummer that I've set my life up that way on purpose. And I know one day, or I hope one day, it's going to pay off, right? But right now I'm like still going through the trenches.
Yeah, and I think you just need to do what's good for you. You like working.
Exactly.
I've heard you say, I don't like vacations. I don't think I've ever had a vacation. All my stuff goes straight to hunting. That's my vacation. Like I do 15 weeks, 16, whatever weeks a year, and it's hunting, but I work to hunt. Like and luckily I was able to get a gig to where I get paid to go do it.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's like, it's not even about, I don't even know where in Canada it is. And it's not even about that to me. It's about to be able to go bear hunting.
What are you shooting it with?
I say, I don't know. I don't even know anything. Like, I don't even know if I take my own gun. I don't know if they supply that. I don't know how it works. So I'm taking the guy to lunch on Tuesday, and we're going to go through all of it
that
and
this
hash
year?
it all out. Yeah. So it's May this year. So he goes once or twice a year, and the way I understand it is he is a partner on the property.
Oh, nice.
And so the other people are like the outfitters and whatnot. And then I don't know, I shouldn't even speak. There was something financially that he helped out with and kind of bought into it. So he goes a couple times a year. And when I met the guy and he told me about all this, it was when COVID was starting and they cut off the borders and said no one's in or out. And so he was like, yeah, dude, this is so cool. You should come if you can. And then he was like, but we can't this year because COVID.
The good thing with that, there's going to be big bears.
I think he went in October, he said. And that's what he kind of alluded to.
Yeah. When I was down at the banquet dinner that we bought that and hunt for my wife, and it was like, hopefully everybody doesn't kill all the bears. Like, and that's the thing with hunting is it's like you want to kill a mature animal. You want to kill something older. And so that's what I'm going to. Hopefully she can kill a big bear.
Yeah. I'll have to let you know if I end up going and how it goes. But, dude, I mean, even your pictures on deer down on the strip, I'm just like, I had no idea there was deer that big down there.
Yeah.
And so I spent like maybe a summer. Well, it was probably like 7 or 8 months trying to chase pigs down there.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a couple on cameras and that was it. And I spent and it was more just to unplug and get away, right? But I spent hours and hours and hours on my razor down there trying to track these things.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little familiar with some of the properties, but I don't know. It was just a fun thing to unplug and get out. And
and it's not that far away from home. There's been times that we've been hunting deer, and my wife will be like at her parents' house in Washington. I like getting cell service to talk to her at night, and I'm like, look south. Do you see my headlights? And I'll be flashing. Like, we've literally have hunted deer that are like 5 miles from the Utah border, just out there in the no man's land.
That's awesome. You're like, here I am. Can you see me?
Yeah. So it's like, holy crap, again. But it's some good stuff.
Cool, man. We're about an hour and a half in. So
appreciate it.
I think it's a good cutoff, but I'd love to have you come back and then we can trade the bear stuff. You can tell me how the bear hunt went.
I didn't even like care to come on. Like, I appreciate the invite and
cool.
and doing it. I do support. I like what you have going on. I think we need more of it. Just people sharing their experiences.
I want to talk about my new mug.
Yeah.
So is this like a side gig that Whitney's doing, or?
Yeah. So she has a little business, and it's called Red Desert Design.
Okay.
So she does sublimation. She can make shirts. She can do tumblers. She also does freeze drying on candy and different types of food, but nothing
that's
too crazy.
Awesome.
But she
does
she
it
got her business
house?
license, and she's
cool. Dude, good for
she
her.
just does it on the side. Yeah, I'm very fortunate with her. She is assistant manager, designs bank in the town that we live in Enterprise, and so I couldn't do half the things, anything that I couldn't do without her. So I this isn't just, honestly, if my wife was here, I would not be talking about her. Like, I don't do it enough. She is the coolest person I've ever met, and I don't know if I've ever met anybody that has anything bad to say about her.
Yeah.
So pretty lucky.
Well, I think that's a good way to cut it off right there, man.
Sweet.
So appreciate it.
Awesome. I do too.
All right, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening to us for the last hour and a half. Hopefully you got some good laughs out of it, got a little knowledge. And seriously, if you want to link up with Trevor and try and do some hunts with some kids, I know that he would be down. This isn't just him talking. I know he'd do it. We'll put your link, or we'll put like are you on
Instagram, Facebook, anything?
TikTok, anything?
Oh yeah, TikTok.
Okay, so we'll tag you in all that stuff. So if anyone ever wants to reach out to him, you've got a segue through us. So if you enjoyed this, like, share, comment. I don't do Apple, but I guess you can get on there and rate it or do a comment. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.